For a very well organized, wonderfully extrapolated resume that you have talked about me. The experience that we had in the field must be put to train others. Then only it's of importance. The topic that I have been allotted today is need and scope of research in IVL. Now the topic is very relevant because we are conducting this workshop in an Ayurvedic college. Therefore, relevance to IVL is very, very important. Next please. Now first let me talk about what is the need for research in Ayurveda. Do we really need a research? That is the first basic question every Ayurvedic scholar would ask himself or to anybody else who is doing research in Ayurveda. Because it is said Ayurveda is Trikaldarshi. It is said Ayurveda has come over centuries, thousands of years, and while it is time tested, why does it need research? So there are several reasons as to why we need to do the research in Ayurveda. I shall extrapolate some of those reasons into my next few slides. Next. Now we have to remember that whenever we are talking about research, it has to be in relevance to the science where you are trying to look into. I cannot have the battery of tests of today to look into a science which existed around 5,000, 7,000 years ago, maybe even much earlier. We have a record of written scriptures of around 4,000 to 5,000 years, but unwritten in the Shruti form Ayurveda had existed for maybe tens of thousands of years. Next. Now, first of all, why we cannot adopt the research methodology the way it is? There are several reasons. The modern research methodology is designed to research the modern medicine. Basically that was the need, therefore it was designed. And there is a lot of difference between Ayurveda and modern medicine. We need to understand that difference. One of that is the cost factor. Because there is a whole lot of cost involved in producing modern medicines, trillions of dollars go into discovery of one molecule. Therefore the drugs become very expensive. Traditional and Ayurvedic medicine normally is very cheap. Why I say normally? Because if you are using gold, it becomes expensive. If you are using some of the rare herbs, probably that will be expensive. But on the whole, for delivering primary healthcare services, Ayurvedic medicines will be much, much cheaper as compared to modern medicine. Now, chemistry is usually very simple in modern medicine. It is one chemical, one molecule, maybe two molecules. But whereas in a plant or maybe in a mineral product, there will be hundreds of molecules, hundreds of constituents which need to be looked into because they have their efficacy of being together. And therefore, the reductionist approach which the modern medicine have will not be applicable to Ayurveda. We cannot have reductionist approach to reach to a molecule. The special studies of reference over here are of reserpine. Dr. Vakil took reserpine out of the Sarvagandha. And what was the fate of it? After around 5 years, 10 years of usage, it was thrown out of medical practice because it had very, very serious side effects. Our concept of Ayurveda is that a drug as a whole will be safe and effective. At least the safety is guaranteed with the drug as a composite drug. Now, chemistry is very simple. Normally, traditional medicine it will be very complex. The target organ is very specific in modern medicines. If something has to act on beta cells, it will act on beta cells. If it acts on some other organ or some other tissue, probably that will be termed either as a side effect or as a concomitant effect or whatever the pharmacologists want to call it. But they are targeting a specific cell or a specific organ. Whereas Ayurveda is more holistic, it gives a kind of a target which is very multiple oriented. So Brahmi will act on the brain, it will act on appetite, it will act on several dhatus, it will act on dosh, it will act on several target organs. Similarly, potency of modern medicine is very high, and the potency of Ayurvedic medicines is little low as compared to modern medicines. That is one reason that Ayurveda is normally not applied in emergencies. There are always exceptions. Diarrhea, we have wonderful remedies for from Ayurveda, where they will immediately act on dysentery and diarrhea. There are many more illnesses where Ayurveda could be better than the contemporary medicine. But normally speaking, potency of modern medicines is high, and therefore in emergencies, modern medicines is a must. Whereas the potency of Ayurvedic medicines and traditional medicines, of whatever origin, whether they are Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, they would be normally low. Then incidence of side effects. The more potent, the more active the molecule, the more the side effects. The more holistic, lesser the side effects. And at the end of this whole slides, I am going to give you a diagram whereby you will understand how the Ayurvedic medicines show less side effect as compared to any other medicine. Action is very drastic because they are more potent, and the changes in physiological events occur. There are huge changes that occur in the physiological events. I mean, if you give an anti-diabetic drug, it will, right from glycogen utilization, right from glucose metabolism, everything will go haywire, and there will be remarkable physiological changes in the system. Whereas in Ayurveda and ancient systems of medicine, normally it is samadosha, samaganish, samadhatu malakriya. It is an effort is done, an effort is made to bring in harmony in the three humors, harmony in dhatus, harmony in yavi kriya vijayate, sharire dhatu sama. So you are more towards the harmony, bringing in harmony, or what we call as restoring the physiological balance. In vitro tests, the animal studies and isolated from outside the body. Any test which is done outside the body may be relevant in modern medicine, but it does not acquire a lot of relevance as far as Ayurveda is concerned. One of the exceptions of molecular biology that we are using today is an exception to it, but primarily speaking, the in vitro tests are very difficult, inadequate, and may not be what we call as purak for Ayurvedic medicines. Next. This is a slide which I have acquired from one of the speakers from in a workshop from Draviguna. I have acquired that slide from there. The ancient times and modern times collection of herbs. Therefore, there is a need of research. How do we collect it? It carries a lot of meaning as far as the efficacy of the herbs is concerned. Efficacy of Ayurvedic medicines is concerned, because normally the ancient scholars and Vaidyas used to collect as advised in Granthas. Modern day times, today you need more Brahmi, you go to the garden and pluck it and use it. Today the industry is manufacturing, it has got an exports order, it requires 2 tons of Brahmi, they will outsource it from anywhere. Therefore, the acquiring collection of herbs has changed. The Vaidyas used to do the collection themselves earlier, they were more wise. Today it is being done by unskilled laborer, and that has got a lot of impact even on biodiversity. Now if I want the leaves, the unskilled laborer does not know it, he will pluck the whole plant. So there is a degradation of the biodiversity material as well. The smaller quantities used to be plucked by a Vaidya, he would pluck what is required for his patient today. But what is being done? Here now vendors are going for hiring the unskilled laborers to pluck everything that comes their way in the forest. There used to be a proper season and time, but now it is depending on the requirement. Fresh collections have got more efficacy as compared to the collections that are done 6 months earlier or 1 year earlier. Next please. The processing and storage of herbs. This is why the research is required, because the times have changed. The environment has changed. The collection practices, the medicine making practices, the Ayurveda, the practice, Ayurvedic not only practice, the clinical practice, but many of the things have changed as per the time, and therefore we need, can we go back? Now processing and storage was being done by Vaidyas themselves. It was being, even processing and storage was also, it's not only collection, processing and storage was also in smaller quantities. So there was no use of, probably minimal use of the excipients. Probably excipients were not known. The only excipient people had was salt and sugar, or maybe some form of methi, or maybe sarshap tail that used to be used as a preservative. But today we have hundreds of excipients that are going into the medicines, Ayurvedic medicines today. Therefore, you could call them as inert chemicals, but they do have an effect, because according to Ayurveda, there is nothing which does not act on the body. Therefore, they are, from Ayurvedic point of view, they need to be viewed from a different angle. Accountability of the prepared processed medicine lied with the Vaidya. Today there is, from the hands of Vaidya, it has gone to the companies, because they manufacture in a large scale. And earlier Vaidya used to be in control of the total situation. I dispense a medicine, I am responsible for it. But today, because there is so much of commercialization, it can be transported anywhere, anybody can use it. The manufacturer does not know. Leave aside Vaidya, the manufacturer does not know where his medicine is being used, whether it is being used in India, America, Europe, or in what part of the country. Next please. Then we have there are special features of Ayurvedic medicine which demand research. See, codified written tradition is there. Sutruk mein. It is codified into a particular language. We need several other textbooks to translate that into some meaning. So it varies from person to person how he reads the shlok and how he reads the commentary and what he derives from it. Therefore, there is a need for research into it. Ayurveda has been an unbroken tradition of practice. Probably this is the only living science since ancient centuries, ancient times. Because there is no, what made it survive through aggression, even during the historical periods, is something that we need to know. There were Muslim invaders, there were invaders from outside, there were Britishers who destroyed the Indian culture, but still Ayurveda survived, Ayurveda continued to survive and was always a living tradition. And it did not become redundant. At any point of time in the history, Ayurveda never became redundant. There have to be reasons. So you have to do research to find out what made Ayurveda to live so long. Therefore, the research is needed. Huge infrastructure is available today that must be put to research. That the huge infrastructure that we have, 8 lakhs of Ayurvedic doctors that we have, can come of help to Ayurveda, can destroy Ayurveda. If they can act in both the ways. If they are not trained in research, if they are not trained to talk wisely about Ayurveda, they are destroying Ayurveda also. I have seen many Ayurvedic doctors who have been criticizing the use of Rasaushadhi, which is absolutely bad for the system. Therefore, we need to train this huge infrastructure that is available and to train them and to make them believe that what we are doing today in the educational institutions and the research centers is what is acceptable and what is absolutely called for. We don't do something which is mess or which is not in order. Acceptability has to be done by the masses, so we need to do research. We need a lot of research to convince the masses that yes, we are here to serve you with a scientific attitude. Need for validation of efficacy and safety. It's not about efficacy, it's also about efficacy. This probably statement will go on in several more slides because we are very close to Indian culture. Even many of the allopathic doctors are very close to the Indian culture and therefore they believe what Ayurveda says is right. They believe Ayurveda, they start prescribing Ayurvedic medicines, they come to you for treatments. But when they are not from your culture, probably they have no reason why they should believe in your system. The only reason why they should believe you would be that you have a scientific temper and you have a scientific validation and that you have researches to prove your point. Therefore, we need research. Therefore, we need to generate evidence-based researches which make people, scientists and different communities across the globe to believe that what Ayurveda says is absolutely on the scientific lines. The scientific, when I say scientific line, you devise your own methodology. It's not an issue. You may not follow a randomized, controlled, placebo-controlled, double-blind study. You want to do, you please do it. But whatever you want, whatever you are doing, you should be able to justify it. Justification of your actions is more important in research than following blindly a protocol. Next please. Now, spectrum of evidence base is available with us. There is a lot of scriptural evidence and folklore claim. Our texts speak volumes. Just imagine 10,000 years, 15,000 years back, when the whole world was absolutely ignorant about the civilizations. Ayurveda had advanced to a state where we talk of samprapti, how the disease occurs. We talk of prognosis. We talk of Urguru, Root, Hetu. We talk of Bheda. We talk of complications. Then we talk of Sadhya Sadhyatu. Everything that we are doing in science today was available in the volumes of Charak, volume of Sushruta. Of course, in the written form for last 5,000 years, but much before in the unwritten form. Therefore, the scriptural evidence is very strong with Ayurveda. We need to tell the contemporary society that yes, we have